Confidence doesn't walk into the room. Confidence is the room. It doesn't beg for validation. It doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. It doesn't whisper, hoping not to offend. Confidence stands tall, silent, unmoved, because it knows who it is. But here's the tragedy. Most people don't lack ability, they lack belief. They have the gifts. They have the potential. They have the opportunity. But they hesitate. They question. They wait. And what they call humility is often just hidden fear. You don't lose because you're not talented. You lose because you don't trust yourself enough to use it. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's not noise. It's not bravado. It's not the loudest voice in the room. It's the clearest. And clarity only comes when you stop doubting who you are and start owning it. But how do you know when confidence is missing? You'll see it in your patterns. You'll hear it in your excuses. You'll feel it in your hesitation. It starts quietly, subtly, slowly, until one day you look up and realize you've built a life around playing it safe. So let's expose it. The first sign you lack confidence is you constantly seek permission. You ask before you move. You wait for someone to approve before you execute. You let the opinions of others override the voice inside you that already knows. Confidence doesn't ask, can I? It decides, I will. When you live in hesitation, you're outsourcing your power. You're living in delay. You're waiting for a sign when you are the sign. You were not meant to tiptoe through life, asking for validation. You were built to move with clarity, not consensus. And every time you hesitate to act because you're waiting for someone to tell you you're worthy, you reinforce the lie that you aren't, but you are. And you don't need permission to become who you already are. The second sign you lack confidence. You apologize for your ambition. You downplay your goals. You hide your hunger. You shrink your language so others don't feel threatened. You were born to be a giant, but you keep crouching to fit into spaces that were never designed for your stature. You say things like, it's not a big deal, or I'm just trying my best, when deep down you're building something powerful, but you're scared to own it. Confidence doesn't apologize for wanting more. It doesn't mask vision behind false modesty. It moves boldly and lets results do the talking. There is nothing noble about pretending you don't care. There is nothing holy about hiding your light. Your playing small helps no one. It only keeps you trapped in rooms you were meant to rise above. The third sign you lack confidence. You avoid risk not because it's wrong, but because you fear failure. You don't take the shot. You don't make the call. You don't step forward unless it's a guaranteed win. Confidence doesn't need certainty. It creates certainty through action. Fear says, what if I lose? Confidence says, what if this is the moment everything changes? Every breakthrough you've ever wanted is waiting on the other side of risk. And the person who wins isn't the most prepared. It's the one who's willing to leap before they feel ready. If you avoid risk, you avoid growth. And if you avoid growth, you avoid greatness. You weren't made to live in safe zones. You were made to lead. But leadership demands courage, and courage requires confidence. The fourth sign, you lack confidence. You're easily shaken by criticism. One negative comment derails your whole day. One opinion causes you to question your entire direction. Why? Because when confidence is absent, your identity is fragile. And when your identity is fragile, any voice can shape you, even the wrong ones. But confidence is rooted. It listens to feedback, but filters it through identity. It hears correction, but doesn't confuse it with condemnation. Criticism doesn't destroy the confident, it sharpens them. If a stranger's words can undo your drive, your confidence was never internal, it was borrowed. Stop renting your strength from compliments. Start building it from conviction. Because when you know who you are, what they say doesn't define you. You define you. The fifth sign, you lack confidence. You procrastinate on your calling. You talk a good game. You have the dream. You've mapped the vision, but you never pull the trigger. Why? Because confidence is not built in contemplation. It is built in execution. You delay not because you're lazy, but because you don't fully believe you can carry the weight of what you've asked for. And so you make it look productive, but it's really paralysis. You overthink, you overplan, you get ready forever. But confidence doesn't overprepare. It moves and adjusts on the journey. Confidence knows progress comes through imperfect action, not perfect timing. So stop delaying. Start deciding. Start delivering. The world is not waiting on your perfection. It's waiting on your permission, the permission you give yourself to show up. The sixth sign, you lack confidence. You conform to stay accepted. You bend. You blend. You shift your standards. Not because you're evolving, but because you're afraid to be excluded. You say yes when you mean no. You agree when your spirit screams to speak up. You follow when you were born to lead. But confidence doesn't conform, it commands. It doesn't seek to be liked. It seeks to live aligned. And alignment always costs something. It might cost comfort. It might cost community. But the price of fitting in is too high when it requires you to abandon yourself. You were not made to be tolerated. You were made to be trusted with truth. And truth can't be walked out when your feet are in someone else's shoes. Put your voice back in your mouth. Stand on your standards. And stop trading authenticity for acceptance. Because every time you shrink to fit in, you reject the part of you that was born to stand out. The seventh sign, you lack confidence. You sabotage what you say you want. You finally get the opportunity and you question if you deserve it. You get close to love and you pull back. You reach the edge of breakthrough and you find a way to break it. This is the most dangerous sign of all because it looks like bad luck, but it's really internal resistance. A person who lacks confidence will always return to what's familiar, even if familiar is broken. You'll sabotage the good because you're still loyal to your old identity. And your old identity whispers, you're not that powerful. You don't deserve this. This isn't you. But here's the truth. It is you. You just haven't stayed long enough in success to get comfortable with it. Confidence is staying in the room your potential earned you, and not fleeing back to the comfort of mediocrity when it starts to stretch you. You don't just need more wins. You need to learn how to hold them, how to embody the version of you that can sustain success, not just stumble into it. And that is what confidence truly is. It's not arrogance. It's not noise. It's not appearance. It's the quiet, unshakable alignment between who you are, what you do, and what you believe you deserve. It's the evidence of self-trust. And once you build that, you don't chase confidence. You become it. And once you become it, everything shifts. The room feels different when you walk in, not because you're louder, but because your presence carries weight. Not because you're flashy, but because your energy radiates certainty. Not because you demand attention, but because you no longer need it. You are no longer performing. You are no longer negotiating your worth with people who haven't earned a seat at your table. You are no longer doubting your direction every time the wind changes. Because confidence doesn't need the weather to be perfect. It doesn't need the applause to be loud. It doesn't need the outcome to be guaranteed. It just moves. It speaks when necessary. It listens without insecurity. It walks forward not faster than everyone else, but more sure. And that sureness, it doesn't come from the world giving you a trophy. It comes from you keeping promises to yourself in private. It comes from doing the work when no one is clapping. It comes from making decisions based on your values, not your fears. It comes from looking in the mirror and knowing you can trust who's looking back. That's the foundation now. That's what you're building. A life where your confidence is no longer conditional, no longer built on outcomes, no longer swayed by moods or followers or public opinion. Your confidence now comes from alignment. You say what you mean. You do what you said. You become what you believe. And you believe because you've done the work to believe. No more asking for evidence. You are the evidence. No more waiting for someone to validate your voice. You are the voice. No more pretending that insecurity is humility. No more calling fear caution. No more mistaking delay for preparation. The most powerful version of you is the one who shows up without hesitation. And from now on, that's who walks into the world each day. Not perfectly, not without setbacks, but with certainty. You've seen the 7 signs. You've exposed the patterns. And now you no longer wear them. Now you wear something stronger. Now you wear identity. Now you wear peace. Now you wear fire. Because you're not trying to become confident anymore. You are confidence in motion. And the world, the clients, the relationships, the opportunities, they don't respond to your pitch. They respond to your posture. So hold it, own it, live it, and let every step forward whisper to the world. I no longer question who I am. I no longer fear what I carry. I no longer wait for belief. I am belief with breath in my lungs, fire in my bones, and purpose in my step. This is what confidence looks like. This is what alignment feels like. This is what freedom walks like. And from this day forward, you walk like that. Got it from here on. I'll continue in English. Let's keep going. Because when you finally stop waiting for the world to give you permission and you grant it to yourself, you become unstoppable. You no longer second guess your voice. You no longer dilute your presence. You no longer rehearse smallness to make others comfortable. You speak clearly, not to impress, but to express. You move decisively, not for control, but from conviction. You live openly, not for approval, but from alignment. And that alignment becomes a force field. You attract different people. You create different results. You carry a different gravity. Because true confidence is gravitational. It doesn't need to reach out, it pulls in. It pulls in respect. It pulls in opportunity. It pulls in clarity. Not because you're trying harder, but because you've stopped trying altogether. You've replaced efforting with embodiment. Confidence doesn't hustle to be seen, it's felt. In your silence, in your presence, in the way you sit at the table without explaining why you belong there. That's what this work builds. Not hype, not noise, not temporary bravery. It builds identity. The kind that no one can take. The kind that doesn't rise and fall with opinion. The kind that walks into storms and calls them training. This is what happens when you remove those 7 signs. You don't just stop lacking confidence. You start radiating it from your eyes, from your posture, from your life. And once you radiate confidence, you don't go back. You can't go back. Because that old version of you, the one who asked, who waited, who doubted, is no longer here. You buried them in discipline. You replaced them with action. You transcended them through truth. And now, you walk different. You speak different. You are different. Then let's keep going. Because once you feel it, that quiet fire, that rooted certainty, you can never go back to living on accident. You become allergic to anything that dims your light. You become ruthless with distraction. You become intolerant of anything that smells like self-betrayal. Because confidence has a cost, and that cost is your old life. The version of you that waited for the right moment, that danced around truth, that stayed in the room too long because you didn't want to be misunderstood. Confidence doesn't keep you stuck, it calls you out of spaces where your presence is dimmed, out of circles where your growth is inconvenient, out of behaviors that no longer match your standard. You stop asking, will they accept me? And you start declaring, is this aligned with who I've become? You stop filtering your expression to keep the peace. Because peace bought with self-abandonment is not peace, it's a prison. And you've escaped that now. Now you speak with clarity, not to convince, but because your truth demands voice. Now you move with intention not to impress, but because you refuse to waste a single step. Now you live with conviction because every part of your life is a reflection of your internal alignment. You know what this is? This is freedom. The freedom to be bold without being bitter. The freedom to walk away from what no longer matches your standard. The freedom to build your life based on truth, not trend. And once you taste that freedom, no paycheck, no relationship, no applause is worth trading it for. You are no longer here to fit in. You are here to stand tall. No longer here to perform. You are here to embody. No longer here to prove. You are here to move. And from this moment forward, the world will feel that. Because confidence isn't a sound. It's a signal. It's not what you say. It's who you are when you say nothing. And now you are that signal. Then let's push even further because now you're not just walking in confidence. You're radiating identity. And that kind of confidence, it cannot be borrowed. It cannot be imitated. It cannot be taught, only activated. You've activated it. And now you understand confidence isn't loud, but it is undeniable. It doesn't try to take up space. It simply is the space. It doesn't wait for applause. It walks like the whole room already belongs to it. Because when you are confident, not because of your accomplishments, but because of your alignment, you become magnetic. You attract what you no longer chase. You command what you used to wish for. You create what you once called impossible. People begin to feel your energy shift before you say a word. And not because you're trying to be anything, but because you're done pretending you're not everything. That's the shift. You are no longer defined by your fears. You are no longer held hostage by your doubts. You are no longer standing in the shadows of your own potential. You've stepped out, stepped up, stepped in, and now there's no turning back. The rooms you walk into will feel your standard. The conversations you enter will rise to your frequency. The life you live will echo with the rhythm of a person who knows exactly who they are. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real, rooted, ready. You are no longer asking, am I enough? Because now you walk as the answer. Then let's go all the way. Because now you've crossed over into something sacred. This isn't just confidence anymore. This is authority. Unshakable, unborrowed, unapologetic. And the greatest shift? You no longer need results to validate your voice. You no longer need applause to believe in your ability. You no longer need to win in public to trust what you've built in private. Because you've become someone whose belief is built from within. And that makes you rare. Because most people are waiting for the right mood, waiting for the right moment, waiting for someone to crown them. But you decided. You crowned yourself. You realize that confidence isn't something the world gives you when you've proven enough. It's something you carry when you remember who you've always been. You are the mountain now, not moved by wind, not shaped by weather, not shaken by noise. And from this mountain you lead, not with noise, not with image, but with example. You lead by how you stand, how you speak, how you live, how you refuse to shrink, not because you're trying to dominate, but because you've learned that playing small helps no one. The people around you, they start leveling up because you stopped lowering your standard. The rooms you enter, they shift because you're no longer waiting to belong. And the mission you're on, it accelerates because hesitation is no longer part of your vocabulary. This is where the confident live, not at the surface, but in depth, in devotion, in daily alignment between what they say and how they move. And now that's you. You've reclaimed your voice. You've reset your posture. You've remembered your worth. You are no longer chasing power. You are it. Then let's finish what we started, because this is no longer just about confidence. This is about ownership, owning your energy, owning your presence, owning your responsibility to carry the fullness of your power, not in pieces, not in parts, but completely. Because you now know. Confidence is not what you say when things are easy. It's what you embody when life tests you. It's how you speak when the stakes are high. It's how you show up when no one else believes. It's how you hold the line when fear tries to seduce you back into smallness. And from this level, you don't collapse under pressure. You clarify. You don't question your path every time it gets difficult. You tighten your grip. You don't look for escape, you lock in. Because you know the cost of self-abandonment. You know what it feels like to hold back, to hesitate, to play safe. And you've tasted the pain of knowing you were made for more but never claimed it. But that's over now. Now you speak clearly. Now you move boldly. Now you think with precision, walk with presence, and lead with intention. You've become the person who walks into chaos and brings calm. The person who speaks, and the room listens not because you're loud, but because your spirit carries weight. The person who no longer waits for the world to see them because you've already seen yourself. This is confidence without arrogance, power without force, clarity without compromise. You've stopped hoping for it. You've stopped chasing it. You've become it. And now the world doesn't get to define you because you've already defined yourself. And when people ask what changed, when they ask how you started showing up different, you won't say a word. You'll just walk by, aligned, grounded, undeniable, because that's what confidence looks like. When it's no longer something you fake, but something you are. Problems. We all have them. They knock on your door when you least expect. They don't ask permission. They don't wait for the right time. They interrupt. They intimidate. They overwhelm. And if you're not careful, they begin to define you. But here's what no one told you. The problem is not the problem. The real problem is the mindset you carry when the problem arrives. Most people don't fail because the problem is too big. They fail because they feel too small. They give up not because it's impossible, but because they were never trained to respond with power, to step into chaos with clarity, to face complexity with calm, to walk into the fire, not flinch, and say, I was built for this. Because the truth is, problems don't go away. They evolve. They upgrade as you upgrade. And your life will never be problem-free, but it can be problem-proof. Because once you learn the rhythm, once you master the formula, any problem becomes solvable. Not easy, not painless, but solvable. Because you are not a prisoner of problems. You are a solver, a builder, a creator. And everything changes the moment you stop asking, why me? And start declaring, watch me. So how do you solve any problem? You start by changing who you become in the face of one. Step 1, pause the panic. When a problem hits, your first instinct is emotional. Your heart races. Your chest tightens. Your mind floods with what ifs. That's normal, but it's not helpful. You can't think clearly from a state of chaos. You can't strategize while spiraling. You can't lead yourself out of fire while fanning the flames of fear. So stop, pause, breathe, get still. Not because the problem isn't real, but because your power is. The calmest person in the room always wins, and that includes the room inside your own head. The first step to solving any problem is to interrupt your emotional spiral with intentional presence. Say to yourself, I do not react, I respond. Because reaction is random, but response is powerful. And problems don't need panic. They need power. Step 2, define it ruthlessly. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't overcome what you refuse to define. Most people never solve their problems because they never get clear on what the problem is. They fight symptoms, they react to outcomes, but they never address the root. Clarity is the blade that cuts through confusion. And if you want to win, you have to name it specifically, brutally, truthfully. What exactly is the problem? Is it time, discipline, skill, communication, boundaries, self-worth. Strip away the story. Strip away the drama. Strip away the ego. Look the problem in the eye and name it without flinching. Because once you name it, you shrink it. And once it's defined, it can be defeated. Step 3, own your peace. This is the gut check. This is where transformation begins. Because every problem in your life may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility. Blame is seductive. It makes you feel safe. It makes you feel righteous. But it robs you of power. If the problem is out there, you can't fix it. But if any piece of the problem lives in you, your choices, your beliefs, your actions, then you have something sacred. Leverage. Leverage to change, to move, to shift, to grow. So ask, where did I avoid? Where did I ignore? Where did I delay? Where did I enable? This isn't shame. This is leadership. Because leaders don't avoid responsibility, they run toward it. Own your peace, not to blame, but to break the cycle. Because what you don't own will own you. Step 4, ask better questions. Most people stay stuck because they ask questions that weaken them. Questions like, why is this happening to me? What if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What? These are fear-based questions. And fear-based questions will never lead to power-based solutions. Shift the question, and you shift the outcome. Ask, what is this trying to teach me? How can I grow through this? What would the best version of me do right now? What does this problem make possible? Your questions shape your focus. Your focus shapes your actions, and your actions shape your outcome. The mind that asks small questions will always live in small solutions. But the one who dares to ask empowering questions creates answers that change everything. Step 5, break it down. Overwhelm is a liar. It tells you the problem is too big, but really you're just looking at it all at once. The key to solving any problem is to break it into pieces. You don't eat an elephant in one bite. You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You don't build a masterpiece in one stroke. You take the problem and you divide it. What are the components? What are the timelines? What are the tools? What are the next 2 steps? Not 20, just 2. Because clarity loves simplicity. And complexity breeds procrastination. The problem is not too hard, you're just trying to solve it all in one breath. Slow down, break it down. Because progress isn't made in giant leaps, it's made in micro movements, done relentlessly. Step 6. Take immediate, imperfect action. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a start. Action is the antidote to anxiety. Movement is the enemy of fear. And clarity is often born through momentum. Waiting for confidence is a trap. Waiting for all the answers is an illusion. You don't need to feel ready. You need to feel committed. So move. Make the call. Send the email. Block the time. Have the conversation. Hit publish. Take the first step. Any step. Because motion builds clarity. Motion builds belief. Motion builds identity. You don't become a problem solver by reading books. You become one by solving problems imperfectly, boldly, daily. Step 7. Review, refine, repeat. Solving a problem is not a one-time decision, it's an evolution. You try, you learn, you adjust, you test, you evaluate, you grow. The greatest minds in the world don't get it perfect the first time. They iterate, they evolve. Because mastery is not a moment, it is a method. Don't be afraid to go back to the beginning, to redefine, to take new action, to ask better questions, to level up your thinking, to adjust your execution. Every loop makes you sharper. Every cycle makes you stronger. Every refinement makes you unshakable. And when that becomes your rhythm, you don't fear problems anymore. You welcome them because you know the formula. You know the pattern. You are the pattern. You are the one who never stays stuck, who never settles, who never folds under pressure, because you don't run from problems. You solve them with power, with purpose, with precision, and with the unwavering certainty that nothing is bigger than the one who knows who they are. Because once you know who you are, the game changes forever. You stop seeing problems as personal attacks and start seeing them as personalized training. You stop shrinking from challenges and start standing taller because of them. You stop waiting for the perfect path and start walking forward with power, even when the terrain is unknown. Because here's the truth. No one ever told you clearly enough. Problems are not obstacles to your success. They are the pathway to it. Every breakthrough begins as a breakdown. Every lesson worth keeping is wrapped in resistance. Every new level of life demands a new level of you. So when the next problem comes, and it will, don't panic. Don't collapse. Don't whine. Pause. Define. Own. Ask. Break it down. Take action. Refine and repeat. Do it again and again and again. Because repetition builds reputation, and reputation becomes identity. You become the one who can't be shaken. You become the one who always finds a way. You become the one who is called when others quit. You become the storm the problem didn't expect. And now you no longer live in fear of problems. You live in expectation of growth. You walk with quiet confidence. You speak with calm authority. You make moves not out of panic, but out of precision. Because you are not just reacting to life, you are engineering it. Your mindset is your map. Your standards are your compass. Your action is your vehicle. And your results? They're inevitable. Not because life got easier, but because you got equipped. Not because the problems got smaller, but because you got stronger. And the stronger you become, the less you fear. The less you fear, the more you move. The more you move, the more you evolve. And the more you evolve, the fewer problems remain unsolved. So here you are now, not a victim, not a passenger, but a solver, a creator, a force. You don't wait for life to deliver peace. You bring peace to chaos. You bring clarity to confusion. You bring execution to indecision. And from this posture, this power, problems don't slow you down. They reveal you. They reveal your focus. They reveal your preparation. They reveal your next level. So let the problems come. Let the pressure rise. Let the fire surround you. Because fire doesn't destroy the worthy, it refines them. And you, right now, in this very breath, are being forged. Not into someone who avoids pressure, but into someone who thrives under it. And when others ask how you do it, how you always find a way, how you stay so calm, you'll smile and say, because I don't fear problems. I solve them. That's who I am now. And with that identity, the world opens, not because the road is smooth, but because you are ready. Ready not because it's easy, but because you are no longer negotiable, no longer at war with your reflection, no longer bound by hesitation, no longer trapped in the habit of shrinking when challenged. You are ready because you've become responsible not in the way the world teaches it, but in the way warriors live it. You've stopped handing your power to problems. You've stopped blaming your circumstances. You've stopped believing the myth that struggle is your identity. Struggle is not who you are. It's where you train. It's the gym of your evolution. It's the proving ground where strength is born. And you've proven this. You are not the kind who backs down. You are not the kind who folds in fire. You are the kind who speaks truth into the face of trouble and makes it listen. Because here's the highest truth. You don't just solve problems. You lead through them. That's what separates the great from the average. Average minds want resolution. Great minds create evolution. They don't just fix what's broken. They rebuild it better. They find patterns. They shift systems. They create new lanes. That's the life you're building now. Not one that avoids tension, but one that uses it. That turns pressure into precision. That turns adversity into advantage. That turns obstacles into opportunity. And this isn't theory anymore. This is blood in the dirt. This is ours. No one sees. This is the silence before the roar. This is the discipline of the uncommon. Because now you're not here to play defense. You're here to dominate. To walk into chaos and call it order. To walk into uncertainty and call it progress. To walk into problems and command outcomes. This is what it means to master life. Not to control every variable, but to command yourself in every storm. And when you do that, problems stop being interruptions. They become introductions. Introductions to the next version of you. The version that builds faster. The version that thinks clearer. The version that moves with fire, faith, and finality. So don't just memorize this formula, live it. Etch it into your habits. Carve it into your mindset. Make it the rhythm of your response to everything. Because life will test you again. The problem will show up. The delay will come. The challenge will rise. And when it does, you won't flinch. You won't break. You won't beg. You'll smile. You'll breathe. You'll rise. And you'll say, this is not bigger than me. Because I was built for this. Because I know the pattern. Because I am the pattern. Because I solve problems. That's what I do. That's who I am. And I never stop. Because I never stop. That's the creed now. That's the pulse in your chest. That's the quiet vow you've made not to the world, but to yourself. You don't stop because it's hard. You don't pause because it's slow. You don't pull back because others can't see it. You keep moving because the vision inside you burns louder than the voices outside you. You keep solving because that's what leaders do. They don't wait for ease. They create effectiveness. They don't complain about pressure. They convert it into purpose. And now, you are that leader. Not someday. Not if the stars align. Now, because leadership is not a title. It's not found in applause. It's not proven by position. It is demonstrated in how you face your problems. When the world shakes, you stabilize. When everything gets loud, you listen deeper. When confusion reigns, you clarify and act. That's the new standard. That's the atmosphere you bring. You don't chase calm, you carry it. You don't chase power, you become it. You don't wait for outcomes, you initiate them. And with every problem you conquer, you compound confidence. With every storm you endure, you build emotional armor. With every fire you walk through, you forge something unteachable resilience with purpose. It's not just about solving this problem. It's about becoming the kind of person who can solve any problem in business, in life, in leadership, in legacy. That's what this formula gives you. Not just strategy, sovereignty. You reign over your space. You rule your mind. You command your direction because you know nothing outside you is stronger than the decision within you. And that decision has been made. No more waiting, no more doubting, no more circling the same mountains. Now it's forward. Now it's execution. Now it's mastery. And the ones watching, they'll wonder how you stay so calm, so precise, so effective when others are scrambling. They'll whisper, "What's the secret?" But you'll know it was never a secret. It was a standard. It was a formula. It was a choice to rise, a choice to build, not beg, to construct, not complain, to own, not avoid, a choice to speak with action, live with integrity, and lead with absolute clarity. Because that's who you are now. You don't just survive problems. You solve them. And in doing so, you solve yourself. Piece by piece, decision by decision, victory by victory. And from this place, there's no going back, only forward, only deeper, only higher. You've unlocked something permanent, a mindset that doesn't ask, "Can I?" but declares, "I do." A voice that doesn't echo doubt, but commands destiny. A soul that no longer flinches at the size of the problem because it knows there is no problem bigger than a person who refuses to quit. And I never quit.